Happy Friday, everyone. For Feedstuffs 365, I'm Sarah Muirhead. Greg Soulje, meteorologist Greg Soulje, is back with us today with an updated forecast. We got a long-term forecast from Greg on Wednesday, and now we're going to get a look at some of these things that actually he told us were going to happen. They're happening. Wow.
Yeah, amazing. Sometimes we do get it right around here. So yes, chalk up, fly that W flag if you're a Cubs fan around here. So there.
There you go. Yeah, we're getting that rain. So I'm going to put up your slides and let you give us an update.
Yeah, it is raining in Iowa, coming into our part of the world here in Illinois. Had some big storms in the overnight hours in that Mason City, Des Moines, and areas to about maybe Burlington, Keokuk line. And so the start of probably several rain outbreaks that we'll get in those northern and western Corn Belt locales. Those showers may hold together in parts of northern Illinois, southern sections of the Great Lakes region. But the big story is the probably 5 to 7 day, maybe 7 to 10 day, depending where you're at in the Corn Belt, heat wave weather pattern. But it is not the hot dome that we are looking for. And boy, we're getting more and more kind of bearish on this talk of dryness and drought. It was very much evident in the wintertime season. I think it will come back into play, and it's going to be those plains and western Corn Belt locales. And maybe if you play your cards right, you get into some good dry down days, moisture reduction, all that come late to summer and the start of the harvest season before harvest. So it may work out perfect for some, and others maybe too much of a good thing. In any event, 100-degree heat for Nebraska and South Dakota. Boy, I hope you livestock people out there are ready to go with those confinement areas, shelter areas. Make sure that water and water lines are running unrestricted, and fan and ventilation systems going top-notch too. And for the human beings that take care of livestock as well, fans and AC going full tilt. This will be heat. This will be accompanied by humidity. And ultimately, late in the weekend, early to mid next week, don't use the term violent sometimes when you talk about thunderstorms, but all the right ingredients are for these all or nothing blobs that'll get going out there in the western Corn Belt. Still cool with the daytime readings for the day today. Expected to be just in the 70s over the northern and far eastern sections of the Great Lakes region. So heads up, folks on the plains and western Corn Belt, that heat is a coming. Extreme heat, as we have talked about, on the Corn Belt areas of the plains, and then you get up through South Dakota, maybe east of the Black Hills, Pierre to maybe the Red River Valley of the north on south to the Nebraska line, probably 105, 106 this afternoon with a breeze. But dew points are going to be up around 70. So that's 105, 110, 112 on the heat index values. Same applies to the livestock operations as well. So they're really still the worst of the dryness and drought is situated across the Dakotas, Nebraska, the westernmost part of the Corn Belt. We'll take a look at the drought monitor from yesterday in just a minute. So probably increasing issues out there, not to mention the heat-related stress and strain on the livestock and operators as well out there. The worst of the dryness and drought is generating some pretty poor numbers on the spring wheat side of things, and barley across Montana at to 28% and 25% respectively, poor and very poor out there through the northern plain states areas. Meanwhile, in the southern states, warm, it's dry, a couple of showers, thunderstorms. The dry time is appreciated in some of those more waterlogged areas of the I-10 and I-20 corridor, all of Louisiana into Georgia. And despite the drier weather, there's still some field work delays, haying delays, hay cutting, baling, and still they're trying to, and it's probably getting way too late to finish up some degree of small percentage numbers on the cotton planting side of things. And for poultry operations as well, you folks are forewarned that heat is coming eastbound, first into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, and then down into the northern parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Not your usual heat, but 95, 75 of the dew point, maybe a few upper 90s at some point early to mid next week. So that's a lot of stress on poultry and livestock too. So plan accordingly from the Ohio River on southward. But again, this is not a lockdown rest of the summer heat wave weather pattern. Going to be pretty challenging for everyone across the heartland, Dixie, and the Corn Belt, but this too shall pass, and there will be rain for everybody in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks. Hopefully you will check us out on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. We got the 4-week forecast, and I use a lot of green on my precipitation maps well into the month of July around here. We're more and more bearish on this Armageddon-ish thought of dryness and drought. Again, it materializes in the plains of western Corn Belt, east may be kind of okay. And the tropics are already dictating weather here in the next couple of 2 or 3 weeks. So the heat continues across the western states. Low afternoon humidity. We'll take a look at that fire risk, and it is expanding across the Great Basin. Problem coming in 2 areas across the west. We'll take a look at this in just a second. The tropics are busy in the eastern Pacific. Eric made landfall into western Mexico. It is a due north-northeast trek on the remnant high, mid, and low-level moisture on Eric. Put daytime heating on that, and you're off to the races with thunderstorm activity. But generally start that season and that process off with more lightning than anything. So the fire risk will be increasing, not to mention flooding potential and flash flooding potential for New Mexico ranching operations, West Texas ranching operations with time. So keep an eye on those later forecast. This is the 7th. Yeah, the 17th. That's correct. That's the drought monitor coming out on Thursday around here. And the actually came out on Wednesday. Came out on Wednesday because of the holiday yesterday. There it is. Good shape Eastern Corn Belt. And this does not take into account the recent rains through northern Illinois, northwest Indiana from earlier this past week, southern Wisconsin as well. And there was rain too in Michigan. So there should be next week on next week's drought monitor, probably an improvement out of Michigan, northern Illinois, northwest Indiana. And for you folks in the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, your rain is coming. It's going to come at a price, much like we experienced in eastern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio with that squall line that came through here a couple of afternoons ago. So sometimes you want the rain, you get the rain. It comes down all at once, or it's accompanied by 60 to 80 mile an hour winds and large hail. So I'm kind of concerned about that kind of rain pattern getting going in the west and western parts of the Corn Belt. Northwestern reaches and parts of the Plain States too going forward as we put a fairly strong jet stream over this heat and humidity and kind of cool the atmosphere with time as well. And turn the winds in directionally in the wrong direction up aloft. And that unfortunately is going to spin up the atmosphere in a pretty tough situation late in the weekend, next week, north and west. We do have some shower activity, as we mentioned, through northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, into Michigan. Most of the significant rain is with a pretty impressive trough for the time of year. It is still El Nino driven. I don't care what anybody else says. We are still in an El Nino weather pattern. We're not in a neutral state. We're not what the feds are peddling out there. And the beat goes on with a more El Nino looking set to the maps and charts here. Probably still the next 4 to 6 weeks. After that, I think we move in the other direction to a neutral state. By tonight, big storms, Montana, the Dakotas, North Dakota in particular, from the Twin Cities to maybe west of Lambeau Field and northward from there into the southern Canadian prairies. So you're going to get rain up there, and hopefully that will ease some of the fire situations and the ongoing fires across the plains and Canadian Rockies and boreal forest regions there in the coming days. Some scattered showers, thunderstorms down across Florida. South wind on the increase. At least there'll be some degree of ventilation. I don't know if that'll help. Maybe it does in some of these confinement areas across the plains and western Corn Belt tomorrow morning into the southern Great Lakes region. And look at the organized rains for mid to late June. It should be the drier season out there in Washington State, Montana, Idaho, southwestern Canadian prairie as well. A couple of showers and thunderstorms across the Gulf Coast. That absence of any moisture that you see by tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening across the plains and Corn Belt. I know people will walk out and say it's warm enough and humid enough to rain. No, because it's equally warm as you try to build clouds, and you won't be able to, into the atmosphere. It's called a capped off atmosphere. Certain temperatures trip off certain things in a forecaster's head. We can't build more than clouds up to maybe 30,000 feet or 20,000 feet or whatever. And you dry them out. Yeah, and then you stop the thunderstorm making process. So for now, that's the story in the plains. But good coverage moisture. And yeah, if I squint real hard, that makes sense. Some snow in the higher peaks outside of Yellowstone. Sure, I'm okay with that. That's the degree of cool air that's building into that particular part of the country. Looks like we continue with moisture into the northern high plains, southern Canadian prairie through Sunday. There's the next 48 hours and significant moisture for Montana, hip hip hooray. For some of those spring and winter wheat areas, significant moisture for the mid and upper Red River Valley of the North, the northern Great Lakes region as well, which is still a little on the dry, drought-ridden side, and into areas north of the Thumb area of Michigan. And probably if you get a direct hit, there's probably worth a quarter to half, maybe some 3/4 inch amounts coming out of that rain in eastern Iowa and northwest Illinois. Big storms, enhanced risk. It's the same 3 out of 5 scale that we had come through Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio a couple of days ago. This time they're going to spread eastbound on, I don't think it's I-90 or 94 up that way, kind of either side of the interstate system as it runs east-west out of North Dakota through Minnesota and into the arrowhead of Minnesota. Those two bearing hail and high wind, but some drenching rainfall. The severe weather risk tomorrow shifts up towards the Sioux, lower Great Lakes region out towards Mount Washington, New Hampshire, and points southward into New York State. Look at the fire potential out there across the West. You could probably just take a snapshot of that for Saturday, that is Saturday, Sunday, and then we're going to introduce all to start dry base thunderstorms, more lightning potential, and then build some flash flooding type rains into Arizona, more so New Mexico, West Texas, once we bring the tropical moisture from Eric northward in the next couple of 2 or 3 days. There's the outlook for Saturday across the southwestern reaches of the country, even into the Sacramento Valley of California. Going forward, it's the hot dome, the big ridge, the 588, 594 ridge out there, pardon me, in the Corn Belt, Eastern Plains, and then moving into the Eastern Corn Belt, Ohio Valley, and then to the Mid-Atlantic region over the next 5 to 7 days. 100-degree heat, pretty common in the Western Corn Belt. There'll be some areas where the ground is a little bit drier. You're able to heat it up better, and there may be a local 100 as well between Sunday and Tuesday, somewhere in the Eastern Corn Belt, but pretty frequently low to mid and some hotter spots, upper 90s expected there as well. Typically when we get these heat waves, especially they're more dominant late summertime, the crop is pumping along. It's in towards maturity mode. And the folks at the Illinois State Water Survey 30 or 40 years ago did a test, at least a study on the corn fields anywhere across the Corn Belt, especially eastern areas and the more loamy type soils are able to put moisture back in the atmosphere and really raise dew points. And they're already going to be high enough in the upper 60s and 70s with Gulf moisture, Pacific moisture, and wet grounds to the south building on northward. So just plan on tough overnight lows as well. And if you're okay in subsoil moisture, most are, I think we'll be okay. Wouldn't be surprised there's a little leaf curl or wilt on corn, maybe a few bean fields too, in some of the drier areas of southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois. So that's the story, but it's a progressive weather pattern. We're not locking down. That's it for the next 8 weeks around here. No, there is rain in the forecast. And that sharp drop and that sharp trough moving through the west is going to spark some pretty big storms as we get to what we call this ring of fire, bust out your Johnny Cash, if you will, where storms kind of run the periphery of the hot dome. The hot dome in its center is too hot to make rain, but on its western and northern flank, easily we'll get our multi-day spells of severe weather out of the plains and western and northern Corn Belt locales. Look at how you can teleconnect Eric in Mexico, tropical moisture moving into New Mexico, then up into Nebraska, then through Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That's the 7-day outlook. And if you squint real hard, 1 to 3, maybe some 3 to 5 inch totals out there, and more moisture for parts of Big Sky Country, more moisture for the Gulf Coast, more rain, by the way. We didn't cover this. Good improvement to some of the citrus areas in central and South Florida along and south of that I-4 corridor of late. We'll try to move this along here. The trough, the U-shape through the western states, there is the H. That is the 588, 594. When I was working for Finkel, you would just tell the commodity guy on the phone, here comes the 588, 594. He immediately knew what that meant. From a weather forecast standpoint, you can just say, end the conversation and be it. And you knew what was going on, and they knew what was going on. But there it is over the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, Mid-Atlantic region. But the high weekends, we lose a line or two. We'll just put it in those terms because that just means cooling up aloft. And you can see that flow west-southwest out of Mexico, the southwest into the plains, into the upper Midwest by Thursday and Friday. Little disturbances, vort maxes, energy pockets, if you will, rain, cooled air, outflow boundaries. You check off the boxes. Every one of those will help to make rains in the plains, western and northern Corn Belt. And there will be a movement into the eastern sections in better organization. We're probably about 7 to 9, maybe 7 to 10 days out from now from getting into that. But that same violent type weather may be eastbound here in the next 10 days to 2 weeks in the eastern Corn Belt. There's the Monday, Tuesday system moving through the upper Midwest, northern plains, cool high across the southern Canadian prairie. You see that boundary, that line that just stalls the red half circles, the blue triangles, they stay stuck from the Black Hills to the southern Great Lakes region. It may oscillate back and forth depending if we can get these storm clusters to run along it. But along and north of that and west of the Mississippi, there's one of your mechanisms to make storms, and either downwind of the Great Lakes lake cooling breezes may get some of that to trip off thunderstorms in Wisconsin and North Illinois. So if you can hang in there, you're going to be in okay shape, I think. This is not the dry, drought-ridden weather pattern that we still have some concern about that, but I still think we're 2, 3, 4 weeks out from getting into it. That's a month. That's mid-July. Mid to late July. We'll see what even happens after that. There's the outlook for the next 2 weeks from the feds. The heat easing, not going away. That coolness in the southwestern states is tropical moisture off the Pacific, and the monsoon season gets going. So that tells us right away that one of the hot ridges, which may be reestablishing itself over the northern and central Rockies, and the one off the Atlantic weakens, the one strengthens over the western states. And then you get the idea that through July and early August, we build the heat in and the dry time from northwest to southeast into the plains and western Corn Belt. But not the next 6 to 10 days. Headlines in all areas from New Mexico to Wisconsin and even into the eastern Corn Belt, a little benign looking, but would think that we'll get into some action around here. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Mother Nature is going to serve up some of her own fireworks in Sarah and I's part of the world, I think, already on the longer range maps and charts for the July 4th holiday. Just for giggles here, just to see, because it came out on the internet and everyone goes, rushes and slaps that stuff on X or Twitter or whatever. Here it is. Get your jollies out of the way. Here's the 30 and 90-day outlook from the Fed. So here's July, top left, temps, top right is precip. I don't know what to say about it. It's there. And then the July, August, and September outlook is there, which kind of is the right idea. Heat in the west, dry time expanding into the plains and western Corn Belt. But, if you play your cards right, that's getting close to crop maturity time, maybe the start of early harvest. The wet weather you see in the southwest is the monsoon setup, Sarah, and the wet weather you see in the east is probably tropical related. So they're getting the right idea there. And the 90-day outlook what is that, more dominant of a July outlook or August or September? That's the problem with these 90-day outlooks sometimes, the way they are displayed, that, it could be really just representative of 1 month, or maybe it's everything. Anyway, that's what the National Weather Service people are thinking about. And finally, summertime. I don't want to hear anyone complaining about the days are getting shorter already, because I heard some of my radio pals talking about that. That's it for summertime, But the summertime clocks in this evening at 9:42 in the evening. Still lots of daylight to go past 8:30 in our particular part of the latitude.
Very good, Greg. Thank you so much. Glad to hear the drought concern is easing a bit. We got some rain ahead, but that's okay. Even if it's over the 4th of July weekend, we can handle that if it means not having to worry about a drought in the future.
Yep.
So
it may come at a price. You get sometimes the rains that you want, you need, but you're dealing with hail and lodging and blowdown and all that kind of stuff, and dealing with livestock issues related to wet pastures or hail. So it won't be pretty, but it'll be rain at least. So there.
And we did talk about the tropical storm season on Wednesday in that report. So if you want to go back and check that out, Feedstuffs 365 on feedstuffs.com is the place to find all those details.
That too, a little late in arriving from what the Fed's earlier thinking was. I think it's more in line where we were happy about what we're going with, more of a later July, more like August, September, a hyperactive back end to it around here. And then until that gets going, the beat goes on with moisture and a still moving weather pattern across North America.
Very good. All right. Well, we will be checking in with you again next week, Greg. I appreciate you being with us. Likewise, we appreciate all of you tuning in. Until next time, for Feedstuffs, I'm Sarah Muirhead.